living and dying, walk along hand in hand, you wouldn't understand. Little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Looks like spring came back around over the hillside. You're jumping up and down, lifts my heart up. See you scamper once again, you wouldn't understand. Little lamb, little lamb.
All right.
Well, that was fantastic. I think that was when we booked this session, the first song that you sent me was this one, or maybe you pointed it out because you released this before the record release.
Yeah, we had a single come out. I don't know when, a couple of months ago, and that was the start because it's a springtime song, and it's kind of a springtime record, but we're in the summer already, so it's okay.
How long was the songwriting? How long did it take? There's 13 songs on the record.
It's kind of a year. It's kind of a year's worth of stuff, and really it started kind of the spring of 2022, I guess. Yeah.
That's a lot of keepers in 1 year, you know?
Well, I think I hit the target more often this last year, maybe. I don't know. I hope they're good.
Do you think because did you tour a little less? Have you? I mean, obviously
no,
we all took a little break.
We started touring more.
Yes, he just really put his mind to writing some songs, and
I don't know.
Busy.
A lot of times they kind of dribble in, and sometimes they come in little waves, and maybe they did that this time. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we talk about it for just a second, Tim, because we've never talked about it, and I'm super curious. Your songwriting process, do you have an idea that you carry around in your back pocket for a long time, or if you get a notion, do you take to it and see it through?
Yeah, I had the one about the bear. Maybe we'll sing that later, but it was kind of grabbing my attention. You know the songs are, you get an idea and you go, I could make that into a song, and then how? And you just keep thinking about it until you get it done.
Mm-hmm. And what are you doing while you're thinking about it? Are you just like, is this like a drive or washing dishes?
It could be washing dishes, driving,
sleeping, dreaming.
Sleeping and dreaming. No, I mean, yeah, whatever you're doing, you're kind of, a good one will kind of nag at you like that, just won't let you alone wherever you are.
We talked about this a little bit before we went on camera, but for the folks, some of these people won't be as initiated as they should be with your backstory, and maybe you can talk for a second about how'd you get into this? You're from Wheeling?
I'm from Wheeling, West Virginia, in the northern panhandle of West Virginia, and I got into the folk music and the British invasion and stuff, and started playing guitar when I was 11 and 12.
Musical family or no?
Well, my sister and I were the musical ones. My oldest brother too was a little bit musical. He sang in doo-wop, but he passed away, and I don't know where he would have ended up. But yeah, we had the music between my sister and I. We're the youngest two, and we were the left-handed, redheaded ones, and we were the ones that took to music. And so we sang in church and in school, little plays, and this and that and the other thing, and we both still in music.
Yeah. And then how did you pick British invasion, the connection between that and Telluride Bluegrass Festival isn't obvious. So what steered you into bluegrass?
I heard Doc Watson. That's one thing. I was already kind of interested in it. I'd heard Flatt and Scruggs a little bit, and I knew a little bit about them. And then I don't know. I saw Doc Watson, and I was playing guitar already, and I went, "Oh, that's how you should play the guitar." And I kind of just dove into there, head first, basically. And Doc is great because he plays that kind of music, but he plays so many other kinds.
Yeah.
And he puts it across like it's all one thing.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of pretty good template. Another good template for me was John Hartford as a singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist. That was pretty good because it was new stuff and kind of updated, but also connected to the tradition, which was important to me.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that it's evident in your past and current music.
But I mean, the Beatles were that way too. They loved the tradition, and they loved the, they made new music, and just all roots tradition. You can hear it in their music. When you start playing bluegrass, that's what I moved to Colorado in 1974, I think it was, and started playing in a band called Hot Rise soon after. Yeah. So we toured the world really for a dozen years, and then we kept doing it sporadically for another 28 years. About 29, I think we did. We finally wrapped up our last show, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe talk about that for a second. You were just saying that you've been part of 46 Telluride Bluegrass Festivals.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
How did that start?
Well, they started a little bluegrass group from Telluride, Colorado, started the first festival. It was just part of their 4th of July celebration in the town. In the town park, they had some bluegrass, so like maybe a couple bands, maybe just their band. The next year, they had a couple more bands. And then the third year was 1975, and that's when I came with I went with Ophelia Swing Band. I was in a band in Boulder called Ophelia for about 3 years, and we played there in 75. The guy that was part of the band had bought out the other partners, and he was wanting to expand, and I remember they brought Newgrass Revival that year. That was a big boost. That was a big, uptick in their vulnerability, but also in their draw.
Sure.
It was like adding, it's like an acid-base reaction. All the hippies came. Newgrass Revival and some other bluegrass groups that they didn't know came, and they all showed up. I don't know if they just saw the picture and thought, we want to come to this.
Yeah. But
people from, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, just kind of went to Telluride, and it's
in that year, like
it seemed like a spontaneous combustion, a great idea that was obviously a good one, and there was probably 500, 750 people, but to me that was huge at the time, and
now it's
10,000 cap, and
50 years,
and it sells out in a minute, and it's crazy, and but it's great. So this is the 50th annual. I sat out 1 year, 77, and then 2006 I decided what would happen if I did something different, and I stayed away, and it was stupid what I did. I won't even go into it, but I went, why am I don't want to. I belong here. Yeah. So I just keep going back.
Yeah, it's that sense of belonging. I mean, I feel like you're synonymous with the Telluride Bluegrass Festival more than almost anyone.
Well, Sam Bush, he kept going. He didn't skip any years, and he was the king right off the bat. He was playing with every group, and every group. A lot of the groups that they booked, he had recommended them, and they were people that he played with. Like I remember Russell Smith came one year with Levon Helm, and those guys were all buddies, and that was a great show. Some of them participated in the gospel singing on Sunday morning, Yeah. And meet people like that, and Vince Gill playing in a bluegrass situation. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about driving up to the end of the road in the high mountains and just seeing what happens.
The trip there is part of the experience. Yeah. The journey there is long. Yeah. And even if you just fly to the Telluride airport and you drive in, it's spectacular when you finally get up over the rise and you can see that box canyon with that waterfall, the snow-capped peaks, the whole bit. It's like, oh, we're not in Switzerland, we're in bluegrass paradise.
Yes. Jan, you made some songwriting contributions to this record.
Yeah, there was 2 tracks on there that Tim and I co-wrote together.
That one, she can't, he won't, they'll never. Yeah. That slays.
Thank you.
That sentiment is so great. I mean, in a heartbreaking.
It's a sad song.
Did you come up with the idea for that song?
Well, we were at some friend's house, and they were having, a time in their relationship, and it seemed like something needed to happen, and I said she can't, and Tim said
He won't.
and together we said they'll never.
And a song was born.
Yeah,
He took out a little pen out of his wallet, wrote it down, and stuck it in his pocket. And
Amazing.
Then we wrote it later, a few days later, maybe.
That's a new twist on the co-write story.
Well, it was most of these songs are about other people's having problems, and we don't have any problems.
No, of course not. That's what I'm saying. How do you guys when you tour a lot? And you got a little rhythm that you get into on the road? I think I remember reading something about that in a recent article you wrote. Breakfast, whatnot, or
well, what we do is we bring what we can that makes sense from the backstage food writer that we never really eat all of. We bring that to our room, and usually that's the good thing is like maybe they gave us some strawberries or bananas,
something
or
fresh,
something like that. So then we have the motel coffee and eat a little of that. And
I
usually,
call it black water.
sometimes we
Hot
get
water.
on the road right then. If we don't have time, we go to McDonald's and have our usual, which is the number 7 burrito meal with an extra potato cake and an extra coffee.
Those potato cakes, man.
But
they're so
otherwise,
bad.
I mean, our routine is. What's good is we're married, and happily so.
And
Remember?
we're together.
And, and we're together.
Yes, of course
So,
I remember.
like last week, 2 weeks ago, we were up in West Virginia, and then Maryland, and then we had 4 days off before we had to be to this next event, which was the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame inductions. So we went camping for 4 days in the beautiful river, along a beautiful river there, and stuff like that you can do on your time off, and we can try to cultivate that kind of thing.
Yeah, incorporate a little R&R on the way.
Yeah, like in August we're going to Prague and to the Alps in France, and then we're going to Paris for 4 nights. Jan's never been, and I haven't been since I was really poor. So see what happens.
Not to play, just to
hang out.
Just to hang
Yeah.
out. Yeah. Is there a club in Paris that they don't really take to the Anglophile music there in
Well,
France so
if you
much?
find it, you can find it. You can find some people that would. I mean, I probably could have booked a gig in Paris, but I didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, sure.
I got some friends that play bluegrass in France, and I knew them from 1979 and 80, so they're still doing it. So you can find a gig, but yeah. It's funny, when Hot Rides was in Paris the last time, we played a really nice concert, really nice turnout and everything, and all these guys were dressed as cowboys. They were the MCs. They had chaps and the whole bit, And then they took us out to they wanted to take us out to a nice meal. Well, they took us to a Mexican restaurant. He said, "Okay, great. Here we are. Let's have a burrito."
So I can't remember how many songs we played. I get all carried away, but let's.
Oh, we want to do the one you mentioned. She can't.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. Yeah,
That's right.
let's fire that thing up.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and.
It's one of those days he doesn't feel like talking. He called in sick and then he took off walking. There's a torn up picture in a broken frame. He doesn't answer when she calls his name. She wants to find the right words to say to turn this back around, but she can't. And he won't, and they'll never. forever. They can't be all happy.
That's just a fantastic song. I don't know why that one just really leaps out at me.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love hearing Jen sing it too.
I'm not always the lead singer in this little duo group, so it's a change for
It's
me.
a standout moment. It's
Yeah.
really great. Before we cut out, I'd love to hear your perspective, both of you guys, on the future of this kind of music that we all love so much. People kind of worry about it. Is it dying? Is the audience getting too older? Are the kids coming up? And I was just talking with Joe Newberry a couple days ago about it all. He has a pretty glass half full look at it, and I do too, kind of. But I just wondered what you thought from your perspective.
I mean, about the kind of
The
music?
future of music, the future of like the future of roots music, bluegrass music, folk music, old timey music.
I don't think, I think if the roots of the music die, that you won't have music. It just won't really be music. You have to have the whole tree. You have to have the branches and the roots.
Yeah.
And,
You
I
got to
think
have the
that-
young ones coming up to carry it
Yeah.
on. The other day, this older gentleman that's a traditional bluegrass guy, he said bluegrass just isn't bluegrass anymore. And what'd you say?
I said,
mean,
well,
he was
it's
very
constantly changing.
positive
and,
about it.
I said, if they can find a way to express themselves and, make a living or, express themselves, basically. If they
Sure.
find a way, then I'd say it's valid. But I do understand traditional bluegrass, traditional music is not what it used to be.
Sure.
The future ain't what it used to be.
Sure.
So,
People probably said that about Newgrass Revival when they came out. And probably said about you.
Exactly.
The guy's writing his own songs,
yeah.
setting it to our music.
I know it's been a challenge to. I always wanted to try to fit into that world,
Yeah.
but also didn't want to restrict my influence. Or you can just mute it a little bit, and all the stuff can still show. I think it's all fine. The hybrids are good, but it's important, like that. There's still traditional music going on, or like old time blues, old time bluegrass, old time country. That stuff. I think actually it's a different marketplace than it used to be, but it's still pretty strong. There's a lot of it going around. If you want to find it, you can find it.
What do you mean by that? A different marketplace than it used to be?
Well, I mean, like bluegrass and country, the old kind of Hank Williams kind of country used to be what you heard on
Used to be
commercial
commercial.
radio.
Yeah.
And now it's split off, and it's kind of a side thing. But there's an audience, and
We watched Billy Strings last night on a live stream, and his first song was a very traditional bluegrass kind of Doc Watson playing style, and it was great. And then he went into a 20-minute jam that they all just showed off and did awesome. And you might not like that.
It's not everyone's thing.
It's
But
not everybody's thing, but
but
boy,
nothing's
they are
everyone's thing.
talented, and
Yeah.
he's really doing good. And Molly Tuttle, and they're all
yeah,
really.
the kids are
there's
coming
a
up
lot
with their
of
new
kids coming
take.
up. Yeah.
And I feel like with Billy Strings, that there's no doubt that the young man has a reverence for the music. You know
no,
what I
it's
mean?
it's obvious.
Yes.
He can really put it together. He's one of those guys. Like when the jam bands started flourishing, it was great. But every once in a while, you go to that thing and you go, "Where's the nuts and bolts? Where does it start? And where's the root of this thing?" And sometimes it'd be hard to hear it. With him, he can really get there, and he refers back to it regularly, so that I think people get the idea. And he'll say stuff like, "If you want to check out these Lonesome Pine Fiddlers, here's a song by them,"
Yeah.
and it's great.
Yeah, he's a great ambassador for the music, seems
Yes.
like. And a picker's picker. Let's
He sure is.
make no mistake.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's
You know.
phenomenal. It
He
really
is
is amazing.
phenomenal. You hear that, Billy?
Well, thank you guys so much for spending a little time here.
Yes,
This has
great
been
to
so
be with
great
you.
Thanks, Korby,
to
for
talk a
having
little
us.
bit and hear the music, and maybe take us home with one more.
Yeah, what do you want to do, Jen? You want to do the anchor? It was on my mind a long time. We miss Walter Cronkite, back from the days when they didn't sell the news. They had to prop the news up with other advertising from other shows. There was only 3 networks, and everybody was at the same time, and it was like a public service. And they also had a thing called the fairness rule, which was supposed to mean you represented both sides of the story, which is harder to do than it may seem. But at least they tried. Now you buy your own kind of news that you really believe in, that tells it the way you like it to be. It might not really be the whole story, but there it is. Anyway, this is called The Anchor. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3. They call me Uncle Walter, but I don't think that's quite right. I'm more like some old worn-out slipper you wear after work at night. I don't deny they call me America's most trusted man, but when you're the head of a hard-working team, you do the best job you can. It was hard to be the anchor, to ride the shifted tide, keep the big ship from sinking. Lord knows each night I tried. I covered every last bit of the news that 25 minutes could handle. From Apollo 11 to the Watergate, every triumph and every scandal. It warmed our hearts to see a man on the moon and to hear the Beatles sing. But it hurt to see the killings of JFK and Martin Luther King. It was hard to be the anchor, to ride the shifted tide, keep the big ship from sinking. Lord knows each night I tried. Three networks played the national news at the same time every night. Frank Reynolds and David Brinkley and I had the balance left and the right. Back in our day we had a fairness rule that came down from the FCC. They had to tell both sides of the story so everyone could see. And now my time is come and gone. I watch from the heavens high. There's very few that will tell it true, and most won't even try. There's a market for every kind of news, told in every kind of way. And salesmen play on our hopes and fears and make us poor people pay. It was hard to be the anchor, to ride the shifted tide, to keep the big ship from sinking. Lord knows each night I tried. It was hard to be the anchor, to ride the shifted tide, to keep the big ship from sinking.